And because no liberal wants to have the conversation that, like, generally the minority communities have not caught up to, like, gay acceptance. And as a story I want to get into, this is a really good fucking reason why. There's a story coming out of Texas right now, and I have made this opinion very, very clear that I think that medically altering children because you consider them to be trans is the new woke Munchausen by proxy, and it's completely fucking wrong. And I think that the fact that there's a deafening silence amongst gay people about this issue is striking to me.
Well, let's talk about the story before we get into that.
Yeah.
So this is from the Washington Examiner, which you told me before is a right-leaning.
It's NewsGuard verified, but it's a right-leaning kind of thing.
Yeah. Just as a preface.
This is written by a gay man, by the way.
Yeah. So gay rights depend on our rejecting transgender radicalism and standing up for James Younger. And then this is into the article. A 7-year-old boy cannot be transgender, at least not with anywhere near the certainty necessary to justify life-altering, potentially irreversible physical changes such as hormone therapy or puberty blockers. This stance against chemically castrating young children is now considered radical and abusive rather than obvious common sense at the fringes of the transgender movement.
Yep.
Texas court has denied Father Jeffrey Younger custody of his children after he sought to be granted legal rights, in part due to plans by his children's mother to allow their son James Luna Younger, who is confused about his gender, to chemically transition and live as a female. The mother plans to do this even though her son is only 7 years old, and despite the fact that expert witnesses testified there is still fluidity in his thinking. And Georgelas, according to the Washington Examiner, the mother of the two boys has advocated for James' transition into Luna and has strongly backed the idea of chemically castrating her son and beginning hormone replacement therapy.
And I like using that language, chemically castrating. That I approve of using that extreme language on this one.
Yeah. The ruling on Wednesday paves the way for Georgelas to proceed with the procedure. And they actually, they just ruled that the mother is going to get sole custody.
Yeah, I know.
I think 2 or 3 days ago. This is insane and this is into opinion. This is insane and has understandably led to conservative backlash and widespread denunciation. As Kaylee McGee observes, this is the logical conclusion of the transgender movement. Affirm our agenda or lose your rights to freedom of speech, association, conscience, and even your parental rights. McGee is exactly right, which is why gay people should denounce transgender radicalism and separate ourselves from a movement that would strip away parental rights and force confused children into radical, life-altering decisions, all in the name of adults' ability to show off how woke they are.
Right, and what I've been continuing to say is that, like, this is the new Munchausen by proxy, in which usually the mother would poison their children to get sympathy from the community, and this is the new way to do it without poisoning your kid. Yeah. Well, I mean, they are. Yeah. But again, like, what? I'm going to ask the question again. The same thing I did in the last one. What ethical doctor would allow this to happen when secondary sex characteristics are not present?
Right. I think you said that on the last episode.
I did.
Yeah.
This article is actually pretty spot on with how I think. So I know we don't really read them all the way through, but this is worth it.
First, let's dispense with the narrative that a 7-year-old can be transgender at all.
Yep.
Such a young child cannot even truly understand what sex and gender are, let alone sexuality or gender identity. Of course, a child can experience gender confusion. Yep. Many children do. And if James wanted to go by the name Luna, wear dresses or so on, his parents would be wrong to shame him or otherwise stifle him.
Agreed.
Yeah, agreed too. But that's a very far cry from making radical, permanent physical changes based on the whims of a young child who, as McGee notes, doesn't even meet the medical criteria for a gender dysphoria diagnosis.
Correct, which is what I'm saying about the secondary sex characteristics thing.
Mm-hmm. Moreover, numerous studies show that a substantial majority of gender-confused kids, anywhere from 65 to 94%, that's a pretty big margin, eventually cease to identify as transgender.
Yep.
Even if the real number is lower, as critics claim, it is still far too high to start performing irreversible physical transitioning for a 7-year-old child.
And I've said this before, that if you use puberty blockers on a child, the penis will not grow. So if they end up being transgender, they will not have the tissue available to make the penis into a vagina. Mm. So why this is even a good idea to them in the first place is completely baffling to me.
Yeah. Kyle Dawson says, can this be repealed, fought in any way? And yeah, so the dad can file for an appeal on the jury's decision. That's kind of it, but it could take a year. And I think I read somewhere that he's worrying that, like, within that year, the mother with sole custody could put him on puberty blockers. And a year is a long time to wait. He could hit puberty and the mom would be like, all right, let's cut it off.
Oh, God.
Or cut off puberty, not his penis. But like, yeah, so he could request an appeal, but that would take it to the next level of the courts, and that takes a fucking long time.
So like, let's go ahead and go to here.
The top one there?
Yeah.
I'd also like to point out that many men who as adults have come out as gay and are perfectly happy with our biological sex liked dolls or preferred to play with girls as children. That's exactly my case. Again, in the last episode, I said I put on my mom's heels and I'm not transgender.
Right, and this is like the argument that like a lot of TERFs end up making, which I hate to even label them that anymore because they're sounding like more of the voice of reason than anybody else in these arguments. And I feel like women are listened to more than gay men on this issue, so I actually find them but they dismiss them as TERFs, so then they're not listened to. But they keep saying that like this is inherently really fucking homophobic, and like I don't understand how the trans movement has completely eclipsed our whole thing. And I'm telling you that like if this is the hill that trans people want to die on, I'm gonna have to tell them I'm done with you.
Yeah.
This is it, guys. Like you got to make your choice now, because like if you really think that this is a good idea and this is good for us, then we need to completely cut you guys off, and good luck, because you
can do it on your own,
because this reflects badly on us, and
do gay people really want our rights tied to a movement that would mutilate any child who strays from gender stereotypes? If this is what the T in LGBT advocates for, I want absolutely nothing to do with it. In fact, such an association clearly undermines the very case for gay equality. The case for gay rights is simple. Leave us alone, let us be, and have the governments treat us equally.
Correct.
We lose the ability to credibly make the case for gay rights if we let our cause be tied to this kind of insanity, to a movement that does infringe on others' rights, such as parental rights in the case of James. It's on us to reject this radicalism and make it clear that while the transgender movement might be on board with the tragedy of James Younger, we gay people are not. Otherwise, we'll be caught in the inevitable backlash to this insanity, and frankly, we'll deserve it.
Yep. And again, it's like, so when this story broke, there was absolute silence on it, except for that stupid asshole Charlotte Clymer, who just consistently is just a absolute check mark on Twitter and just has the worst fucking takes on everything.
I was saying to you before. Sorry, I cut you off. Do you want to continue?
No, go ahead.
I was saying to you before, like I just want to ask her, like, well, then how early is too early to put a child on puberty blockers?
Right.
Like, where would you cut off the age and why?
Right.
Are you a scientist? Do you have any idea what biology dictates?
I think morality dictates that puberty blockers you just don't do it.
Yeah.
Like this is one of those issues, and this is maybe extreme to some of these activist people. Fucking 18. You can't get piercings. You can't smoke. You can't get tattoos. Like, you cannot alter your body until you are 18. Yeah. And like, I'm sorry, like if this causes distress, like we will do any kind of psychological, psychiatric intervention that you possibly need. We need resources for these people that are suffering from gender dysphoria, but you do not get to alter your body until you're 18.
That isn't to say that they can't dress in the way that they want.
Of course.
They can socially transition as soon as they want, as soon as they're ready to do so,
and without
the influence of parents being like, yes, you are a girl.
Right.
Like, if you like dolls, we're going to put you in a dress tomorrow.
And
it's like, no, just let the kid decide.
Right. And if this isn't the case for this person, imagine how fucking confusing this is.
Yeah.
And like, you had something pulled up on your phone that was talking about how this kid's different around the father than around the mother.
Yeah, I forget where I read it, and I'm not sure how credible this is, so take this with a grain of salt. But I read somewhere that one of the evaluations of this kid is that he acts differently around his father as he does with his mother. When he's with his father, he is like the typical boy. He like plays around in dirt and in trucks or whatever. And then when he's with his mom, he puts on the feminine guise or whatever.
Right.
So he wears dresses or whatever. So if he's back and forth, is he acting to please both of these parents? If so, like, which is the more natural one to him, and why can't he decide for himself if he's able to decide how to act in front of his parents?
And again, like this they be stuff, like the whole they be thing where you don't gender your kids, that is you projecting your own horse shit onto your kid. Yeah. Like, it has nothing to do with the kid. It's not helping the kid. There's no it's so amazing to me that these people are the same people that are so certain about climate science, but will just completely deny any kind of science or any kind of social psychology for this particular issue. And why? I cannot wrap my head around why. Like, why is this the hill that you're willing to die on? Like, I just do not understand. Kyle Dawson says, how do I give you guys money? Don't worry about that. Just subscribe, share the video, anything like that. Just hang around with us. We have a Patreon, but there's not enough people on it to make content for it yet. But just subscribe, hang out, and we're really glad to have you here. Yeah, so I just don't understand, like, again, and then when this story broke, like I put up a tweet about it, like, and I'll read
While
it
you
here.
find that, I read that the mother actually plans to have the kid reevaluated at 9 years old, and if he, qualifies as gender dysphoric or whatever you want to say, then she'll put him on puberty blockers.
And I'm hoping to fucking God that, like, some doctor will just be like, no,
You can't do this.
You can't do, and they're in Texas, and like that's what Nianoni was saying earlier. Was saying that like this was decided by a fucking jury in Texas.
Yeah.
And so like I've had this conversation with a lot of people out here, and they're just like, oh no, these are just crazy liberals on the coast. No, dude, this is widespread, and this is fucking insane.
I mean, to be fair, the trial was over custody. It wasn't over whether he should be on these puberty blockers.
But this should be
stances
enough.
of the parents. I know. But the thing is, there's an obvious bias towards the mother in all of these custody battles. It is known, and that's typically how things swing. It doesn't matter which one makes the more money. The father always ends up having less custody or no custody and paying child support. That is typically what we do.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I mean, and that's like that's I think one of the most valid arguments that MRAs make. It's just that there really is no recourse as the man. Like, and also like, domestic abuse going the other way around. They never believe that shit. I mean, there's so many different elements of like, if you are trying to get sole custody of your kids, even if it's justified as a man, it's a Sisyphean task.
But I think even if you are like a very liberal person in Texas or a very conservative person in Texas, you will favor the mother.
Right.
Just because, like, I don't know, mother knows best, or like mother is the caregiver, you're going to favor the mom. Or
Right.
if you're a liberal person, you'll be like, well, this kid wants to be transgender, we're going to give him to the mom who will let him be transgender.
Right. So
there was no way he could have won.
This is the comment I put on Twitter. More gay people need to be speaking up about these issues. How on earth is it ethical to diagnose a child with gender dysphoria before secondary sex characteristics are present? We need to call this for what it is, the woke Munchausen by proxy. And like I have lots of like gay friends that follow me, and not one of them fucking touched it.
No, of
because
course not.
and I don't even think they agree with this, but they're fucking scared to say anything about it. And you need to stop being scared to say stuff about this. This is what will undo all of the progress that like our gay forefathers did for us. Like this is going to be the one. Like Jessica Yaniv, we can laugh about waxing her balls or whatever.
She lost that trial.
I know
by the way, and she had to pay $2,000.
That's why it was back into my zeitgeist, which that was encouraging, right?
Yeah,
like that
of course.
again, that was crazy liberal Canada going like, all right, enough of you. And so, but this particular issue, because for whatever reason, like trans is just seen as this untouchable victim status, and so like so much so that we can't even talk about things like this honestly, where there is no science that backs up this idea that it is a good idea to start chemically altering children before puberty. Like that is, and that should be not even a negotiation. This is so obviously clear, but this again, we have douchebags like Charlotte Clymer, who just let me find her
She
thing real
sucks, dude.
quick.
You replied to her, didn't you?
I did, and I want to show you.
It'll be
Yeah, I want to show you. Like, first, I want to go to her profile just to show you the kind of person she is. So, Hillary Rodham Clinton, comms opinion own, writer, queer, army vet, Texan, Hoya, she, her. So I mean, and like that's the other thing I've always said is like if you put your pronouns in your profile, like your opinion is pretty invalid at that point. But let me go back to my thing here. So her thing was, in case it wasn't clear, anti-trans conservatives don't give a damn about this child. This little girl is being exploited as a vehicle of outrage by right-wing pundits, all too happy to make this about their hang-ups with the actual science of sex and gender. And this is exactly like the Red Scare thing. They can just blame it on Russia, just blame it on conservatives. It's like, no, because liberals aren't talking about this.
Yeah.
Like, and they should be. And then so I had my response is, I'm gay and not conservative, and this story troubles me deeply. This reflects so poorly on us as a community, and this is where I, as a gay man, draw a line in the sand. And I don't understand why there is just absolute deafening silence on this.
Yeah.
And then Yanoni says, CNN had an op-ed piece defending this decision the same day that they had a story warning parents that Pepe the Frog and Keck memes can warp the impressionable minds of white teenagers. And again, it's like no mention of like hip hop music or gang culture and hip hop music, Tekashi 6ix9ine, none of that. But because again, there's an obvious narrative that needs to be spun about how, white people see the Joker and they're gonna go on a shooting rampage. It's just, or just Joker or whatever. there is something going on, and I don't like it's social engineering, but to what end? I don't understand what the end goal is here, like other than just creating an absolute insanity universe where we give groups legitimate grievances to start hating minorities again. Like that story by CNN, that's how you make white racists. For sure. This kind of story, it's how you make people scared of gay people. But they push it. Like why do you think they do this?
No fucking clue. I mean, there's got to be, like you said, social engineering, but I think the end game is we all live in a society where we all agree with one another. And I think some people do have like a wholeheartedness to this. We're like, we just want unity and we want cooperation.
Right.
But the thing is, they don't want unity in the sense that like Republicans and Democrats can get along. They want just Democrats to exist because that's the easiest way to have unity if we all already agree on everything. That's what they want.
But again, it's like they smear somebody like Tulsi, who's a normal Democrat,
right?
Like and kind of like the more traditional version of it. Even her response on abortion was perfect, which is like was the one question they finally threw to her directly, and she goes, "Yeah, like up until the third trimester, I'm okay with it, but like no aborting in the third trimester unless there's a like obvious, clear, and present risk to the mother and the child," and which is the like. The absolute sane response to have, but then of course, then New York has to take it so much further, where it's like third trimester abortions without any sort of rationale or reasoning, and it's like then they're surprised that when other states pass these really restrictive abortion laws, and it's like it's in response to you.
Yeah.
Don't you understand? But I just don't understand why they don't wrap. Like, there's no willing. I feel like conservatives are willing to work with us right now, but we're not willing to work with them. And these like any kind of radical idea that I saw as fringe is now being adopted by the mainstream, and it's completely untenable. And I really don't understand. I mean, my only guess, and like this is like is that the ratings for Trump being president is so fucking good that they're all in cahoots and just want him to win again.
Yeah.
I
wouldn't be surprised.
I honestly wouldn't either.
No.
I mean, especially considering that that Adam Schiff, the guy who's the head of this impeachment inquiry thing, is totally backed by media companies. Those are all of his biggest donors. Yeah. So this just because what is the purpose of backing up things like this?
Yeah. I don't know.
It's mind-boggling.